Hey, welcome everyone. Thank you all for joining us for our pre-tox support. I mean, this is something that has been an interest of ours, especially Dr. Parpia's, for a long time, and we're really glad to share it with you.
We're just so happy you're here. So welcome. Cleanses and detox protocols have been popular for decades now. You've all seen them everywhere, right? Yoga studios, Pilates studios, even some of the grocery stores. It makes sense because we're living on a planet that's become more toxic, and our organs of elimination and genes of detoxification have evolved to support on their own. So we're seeing more and more illnesses in the past 2 decades that we weren't seeing before, like chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia, chronic Lyme, tick-borne diseases, mold illnesses, autoimmune conditions.
In the 90s, when I first started treating these kind of illnesses, so many people, if we balance their hormones, especially their thyroid and their adrenal, and help them clean up their guts.
Oh, put your slideshow on.
As I was saying, it's a different world now. Okay, it seems in the last 20, 30 years, just the toxic burden that people are carrying has increased. We just see a lot more immune dysregulation and inflammation. The diseases that we saw, the chronic fatigue, chronic Lyme, even back then we did see mycotoxin and mold illnesses, the autoimmunity, they were all there, but now they're much more prevalent, and they're getting more difficult to treat.
So why do most detox protocols make you feel worse before you feel better? And isn't this normal? My patients ask, or some might even say, I felt so horrible when I detoxed. I'm never doing that again. Don't make me do that.
This is because the body's detox pathways, they're clogged. They're just not adequately prepared to metabolize the flush of toxins that are released, the cellular waste products that our body has been holding on to for a long time. This is often developed from persistent exposure to heavy metals, plastics, and infections.
So your organs of elimination, your digestive tract, liver, kidneys, skin, and lungs work hard to eliminate toxins and cellular waste. Decades ago, before our world and our bodies were so toxic, our organs of elimination were all most people needed in order to eliminate endotoxins and exotoxins. If there's dysregulation in any of these systems, the organs of elimination, typical detox protocols will backfire. Here are the symptoms of detox gone wrong: fatigue, headaches, constipation, diarrhea, all kinds of GI symptoms, actually, nausea, gas, bloating, aches and pains, flu-like symptoms, insomnia.
I'm sure you must be thinking, wait, I already have these issues, that's why I'm detoxing. But it's just so interesting how this premature detox, the symptoms are just pretty much the same as the symptoms of chronic illness. And it's because it's all inflammation. If you already have these symptoms, they will be exacerbated by premature detox. How do we prepare before detox? We've seen hundreds of patients report the same symptoms during detox regimes because we create inflammation when we start to move things. This is a normal response, but it should be a transient response. The issue is that when you have significant inflammation in your system on a chronic basis, and when you detox, you just increase it. So it can drive what should be a temporary inflammatory process to become a more long-lasting reaction. So when you get new or exacerbated symptoms such as brain fog, fatigue, aches and pains during detox, sometimes these can last for just a day or two, but sometimes they can even last for weeks.
As well, most people rarely experience long-term results after just weeks or sometimes even months of detox. I've heard many patients say they feel worse or the same soon after the detox is complete, or they even quit midway through. That's very common as well. So This is because detox is not being addressed at a cellular level. Cellular inflammation leads to chronic symptoms and eventually disease. At this point, popular detox protocols that target your main organs of elimination simply won't work. That's because toxicity and inflammation have made their way past your organs and into the cells.
So the key point is to not detox until you've done a bit of pre-tox, because otherwise you can have problems with pain, fatigue, and other complications, especially if you already have a lot of these things going before you start.
So we decided to create a system that addresses your entire biological terrain in preparation for detox by testing for and treating the different pathways or systems in your body that are already stressed and are already systemic inflammatory contributors.
Some ways to address inflammation that we have seen work across the board, at least for most people, is basic foundational support. And we're going to discuss these today. But most of the ways to address inflammation and prepare for detox are unfortunately individual. They really pertain to you. The order in which to do them often depends on what your situation is. Well, if you have any of these conditions, you're probably not ready for a full detox yet, especially, constipation and digestive issues, but just skin conditions in general. If you have had problems with eczema and, just kind of puffy skin, difficulties losing weight, that's a good hint that your body's not quite ready for detox. If you've been using a lot of meds, often there's some liver stress that really should be addressed before you go full tilt on a detox. And chronic stress, again, the chronic stress is a great cause of chronic inflammation, and it's often reflected in difficulty sleeping, often difficulty with blood pressure control and other autonomic issues.
So the list continues. Autoimmune conditions, these are very, very common in our patients, usually just starting out with Hashimoto's, but then we see autoimmune tendencies throughout the body, including the nervous system. Brain fog, trouble with memory or concentration, again, very, very common in our patient population. Mood disorders, we see a lot of OCD, especially in children. Anxiety or depression, headaches, fatigue, dizziness, muscle and joint pain, hormonal imbalance. Most of our patients have almost all of these conditions at the same time. It's a very common thing for us to see in our clinic. And no, they're not ready for detox yet. Some of them just want to start, but we have to do other things, which we'll be talking about, okay, before they can start. Because again, if we start detoxification therapies, when you have all of this going on, it's just going to create more inflammation on an already inflamed system. So now some of these issues we can typically address right away. Hormonal issues, constipation, sleep issues. We can usually address these with herbs or medications right off the bat.
Yeah. Most of the other issues on the list are secondary from the inflammation caused by toxins and infection. Okay. Once detox and antimicrobial treatment is well underway, these other issues begin to resolve, and especially things like muscle and joint pain and some of the mood issues and brain fog, and the fatigue and puffy skin. All of this begins to resolve when we're finally treating.
So some people can handle toxin exposure and some can't. Many of my patients come to me and they say, I've been in this moldy environment, or I've lived close to the vineyards and there's a lot of spraying going on and I just can't handle it, but I can, but my husband can. He's fine and he doesn't understand me. Well, most of my patients have been in that boat, right? Where they can't handle it, but a loved one can. And they wonder why? Why me? What's going on? So what does affect how efficiently you detox? Really, it's about that, how efficiently you're able to get rid of these toxins from your body. So there are many reasons, but here are the four main ones. Genes and gene expression, your emotional state, plays a part, structure integrity issues, and your microbiome.
Well, the genes are a really interesting piece because the single nucleotide polymorphisms that people call SNPs are the most common type of genetic changes or variation in the genes. These are normal to have, and we all have thousands of them. But the big question is, some of them can affect your detox. Now, the way these are turned on or turned off is called epigenetic, and the epigenetic expression refers to how the environment, both emotional and physical, can turn your genes on and off. So epigenetics controls the gene activity. It doesn't change your DNA, but it changes what genes are able to be transcribed and made into proteins and then affect your ability to detox. And a lot of this depends on your environmental exposure and lifestyle.
Now, regarding your emotional state, it is part of what affects your genetic expression. For example, chronic stress can negatively impact your genetic expression, causing detox issues and other symptoms. Nervous system dysregulation can slow down digestion, making it difficult to heal, negatively impact sleep, and again, have bad consequences for detox. So a growing body of research suggests that unresolved trauma and emotional stress can affect physical health, triggering everything from chronic disease to autoimmunity, depression, and even more.
Well, structural integrity, this is something that often is overlooked, but we have to remember that connective tissue is often a site of toxin storage. When our ability to process the toxin is exceeded, we've got to stick it somewhere, and we put it into fatty tissue, but also into connective tissue. And our skeletal structure depends on healthy ligaments, tendons, and muscles. And a healthy nervous system depends on a healthy musculoskeletal system. And as we get more inflammation, our tendons and ligaments can begin to stretch and even can begin to lose some integrity. And when we develop chronic inflammation, we can develop effects on our central nervous system, especially at the base of the skull, which can irritate our nervous system and cause a lot of the autonomic changes that we see in chronic illness. And at the base of it can be toxicity affecting the musculoskeletal system.
So we found that with the advent of peptide therapies, we can address inflammation and immune dysregulation early in treatment to help modify genetic expression and inflammation in the gut, and thereby systemically. Prior to peptides, this wasn't as easy. BPC 157 decreases inflammation in the gut and as well as a genetic modifier. It helps to modify the epigenetic SNPs, meaning that it will help the genes to express correctly. And this will enable a person to detox on their own.
Yeah. TB4 stimulates the production of Treg cells, which regulate the development of B cells and the rest of your immune system. It is essential to be able to have adequately functioning T cells in order to prevent runaway inflammation. Now, being properly hydrated is not about the quantity of water that you drink, but the quality of the water. We see people with water bottles all day long and they are drinking constantly, but they're still dehydrated. They feel dehydrated, and we can see they're dehydrated intracellularly. Now, spring water from high in the mountains has long been known to be the best for hydration. And it turns out this is because when you have water running over rocks, it develops structure, okay? And it's called structured water. Dr. Jerry Pollack has written a lot about this. structured water, or some people call it vortex water, is also known as gel, or actually Dr. Pollack used the term easy water. But it has a molecular structure that more readily absorbs energy, okay? And it holds on to the energy by changing a little bit of the how the hydrogen and oxygen atoms interact. So instead of just having H2O, part of it is in the form of 3 hydrogen atoms near the oxygen. So it's more like an H3O2.
So water conducts electricity, but when it's in the correct molecular alignment, it can hold that electricity like a battery. So when you drink structured water, it flows into your cells faster because your cells don't have to use their own energy as much to absorb the water. As Eric was saying earlier, many of our patients have the complaint of not being able to stay hydrated, and it's not because they suffer from type 1 diabetes. They're urinating more than normal, and they're drinking lots and lots of water. Probably many of you might be saying, hey, that sounds like me, right? But it's usually because, and we've seen this clinically, okay, the research isn't there yet on this, but it's what we see daily, that they have a high toxin and mycotoxin load. When we begin to detox them, they do begin to urinate less, and they begin to stay more hydrated.
When you are dehydrated, the water in your body is used for your vital organs, such as your kidneys and heart. The digestive tract is often left secondary. So it can be a little depleted in nutrients and dehydrated. When you're properly hydrated with structured water, you'll find that your digestion improves. The microbiology in your gut will actually improve. And this will help your body detox properly and also improve immune function.
So how do we stay hydrated with structured water? All the water inside your cells is structured water or gel water. Fruits and veggies with high water content will help to hydrate you. Their juice is structured water that can be absorbed easily by your cells. Adding minerals like salt and lemon juice to water can help structure it and give more electrolytes to stay hydrated. Using a structured water device and adding minerals can help balance the mineral content in your body and keep you hydrated. We use our structured water device every day, and we do notice a huge difference in our own states of hydration. The water actually feels different. You can feel that gel-like, right? Do you feel that, Eric?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Water is so important and a big issue for the planet, actually. And along with that is the microplastics, which have been found everywhere. I mean, just recently, they've been found in the Antarctic. And these are small pieces of plastic that are microscopic, less than 5 millimeters in diameter. And they've been broken down from the plastic that we use in everyday life, all of our packaging, but also our clothes. I mean, we don't realize how much plastic is in the clothes that we wear now. But the issue is this doesn't go away. It gets broken down into tinier and tinier pieces, but is now found throughout the environment. And the great concern is the amount of inflammation it can cause in our organs. Now, and so we try to minimize it. And it turns out that there's quite a bit of it found in something as common and as something we use every day as table salt. Now, table salt itself should be about 99% sodium chloride, but actually with lots of trace minerals, but what's sold to us is about 99% sodium chloride with about 1% of anti-caking agents. So it doesn't let the salt clump together as much. And these are, unfortunately, sometimes high in heavy metals that are toxic. Refined table salt often has aluminum and ferrocyanide and even bleach, but these chemicals do interfere with the ability of the body to use the salt to regulate hydration.
So refined salt causes your body to retain water in order to protect itself. This could be one of the reasons for inflammation in your body. Your cells release water to help dilute, neutralize, and break down the salt. Your cells end up dehydrated and weak It can cause them to die prematurely, and surely that's not the right circumstances for detoxification.
Yeah. What I just want to emphasize here is that the salt that we often buy, because it's not absorbed into the cell, causes the cell to lose water to the extracellular spaces, and that's what makes you look puffy. But inside your cell, you're actually dehydrated, while outside the cell, in the interstitial spaces, as we call them, that's filled with fluid trying to dissolve the gunk that we don't want to take into ourselves. Sorry for that long little.
No, that's perfect. Thank you, Eric. So Colima salt, it's unrefined, hand harvested salt by a renewable process to protect the environment, and it's from percolated water. It's free of microplastics and heavy metals and chemicals. There's no anti-caking agents in it. It's lab tested for these things, and it's high in mineral content. This salt will help you to hydrate, especially if you put it in your structured water.
Well, 2 days ago, we were really surprised when the EPA released new health advisories for something that's called forever chemicals. These are breakdown products, often of Teflon. These chemicals are called PFOA, and it was found to have basically, there used to be safe levels for it, almost 17,000 times what they're now calling an acceptable level. Right now, they're saying 4 parts per quadrillion.
But these were found in drinking water, our drinking water all over America.
Yeah, and so the POFA and POFS, which was released after they decided that the PFOA was really toxic and dangerous, well, they came up with another fluorinated compound very similar to what PFOS, and that too turns out to be very toxic. So
they are known as forever chemicals because they're due to their extreme resistance to disintegration. They're linked to different types of cancers. Research has shown now they're linked to kidney and testicular cancer, low birth weight, thyroid disease, immune dysregulation, particularly in children, ulcerative colitis, and other health ailments. The EPA now says any detectable amount of PFOA and PFOS are unsafe to consume. They just said this 2 days ago. So the chemicals are not officially regulated yet. Water systems are not required to test for them yet. Hopefully that'll be coming soon, but they're widespread because they've been used for decades in many products. Teflon and other nonstick cookware, clothing, food packaging, furniture, numerous industrial processes, they're present in our drinking water. I'm getting a little emotional here. Okay, but we recommend Berkeley filters. They do filter out these chemicals. The Berkey filters filter out the PFOA and PFOS by about 99.9%.
Yeah. So in this, I guess it is upsetting actually how toxic our world has become, and how we have to work to take care of things that we shouldn't have to. At this point, the basics, I'm sure most of you know, is, just clean up the diet, organic fruits and vegetables, and eat them. One thing I just want to emphasize, I am not a fan of juicing fruits. Okay, the fruits are wonderful, but eat them, chew them. You just overwhelm your ability to digest fructose in the gut when you start drinking it. So organic meats and vegetables are really important for your long-term health. Okay, and by taking care of your diet, you're going to take care of your microbiome. Using the right probiotics, but especially the probiotic and prebiotic foods that are available, all the fermented foods, if you can tolerate them, they're really good for you. But
a lot of patients can't tolerate the fermented foods.
So yeah, okay. But the histamine, our mast cell people, we have to work to get there.
And our SIBO patients,
yeah.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Okay, so you want to detox your home. It's a common misconception that product ingredients have to be proven safe before being allowed on the market. In reality, the FDA has only prohibited the use of about 30 toxic chemicals in your favorite personal care products. For context, the Canadian government has banned or restricted around 600 ingredients. The European Union has banned over 1,400. We've prohibited 30. Unfortunately, many additives are proven endocrine disruptors, carcinogens, and skin and lung irritants. You can find these toxins in products like hair care, makeup, soap, lotions, detergents, your cleaners, laundry detergents. Run all your personal care products through the Environmental Working Group ingredient database. Just go to their website, Environmental Working Group. They'll give every product a grade or green rating and highlight the most toxic ingredients. You know, the reason I'm actually getting, feeling, I'm going to be a little personal here, feeling emotional here is because most of my patients are sick, like really sick from these things, from these toxins, because we haven't been good to the planet. It's showing in the bodies of my patients. And once I detox my patients, we can get the immune dysregulation to even out. We can start to kill the infections. And of course, we have to pre-tox. It's very personal for me because I see this affecting my patients on a daily basis in a big way.
And probably, so what you put in is important and what you get out is also. So constipation is not a minor annoyance. Okay. For many people, I mean, it can be painful, but many folks just kind of live with it. But it signifies that you're just not eliminating waste. And the problem is that if it's sitting in your gut, there is constant recirculation. Your body is an efficient system. So the longer things sit there, you reabsorb toxins. We have a system to reabsorb bile, and unfortunately, it also picks up a lot of the toxins that sit in the gut. So, and the most simple way to start off is just getting rid of the processed foods. Most things that come in packages, even a lot of the things that are in health food stores or look really healthy, but if you look at the ingredients, sugar or some sugar substitute is still high on the list. Get rid of it. And again, for most of us, unfortunately, what we've done to wheat, stay away from gluten. It really is an issue for most people, especially if you're listening to this, you probably have some inflammation. So be careful. Also be careful with soy and dairy and corn, but gluten is the number one, and the grains. And also, most importantly, you have to stay hydrated and mineralized. Okay, it's really important. So that involves water and vegetables. The vegetables have the water. Okay, the healthiest water you're going to get is going to come from your fruit and vegetables. Structured water, I think will be helpful, but you get that when you're eating healthy fruits and vegetables. And remember, if you're still constipated, and some people will be, I mean, this is not, if simple things work, that would be great, but that's when it's time to talk to your functional doctor or naturopath, chiropractor, because that's when the right supplements or balancing the gut flora may be needed.
You want to move your body. It increases circulation and movement of lymphatic fluid, promotes sweating. We know the skin is our largest organ of detox. A lot of my patients aren't ready for saunas yet. Don't do it if it doesn't feel right. This isn't one size fits all. You want to increase your breath rate. Okay, just actually, the breath exercises that you've all heard of, we can do another webinar actually on breath exercises themselves, but meditation, you want to improve your digestion and your bowel movements by moving your body. It decreases stress and anxiety. A lot of our patients are not used to daily movement. They can't do it because they have chronic fatigue syndrome. Okay? So take it easy. If exercise is going to make you feel worse, don't do it yet. Just be very, very gentle. Okay. And some of you can run and climb mountains. So do it, do it to your ability.
Yeah. the mind-body connection is more than just an idea. The research on this has been going on for generations now, and it's always been well known how emotional traumas and unhealed issues, chronic stress, they all work together to keep us stuck in pattern. Okay, and pattern needs to be broken. And there are so many different ways to do this. Some of the simple things are all online and available. If you're really stuck and really in fight or flight, then looking at some of the DNRS programs or the Gupta program are really good things to get going. But you really have to take care of yourself and explore your connection to yourself and to nature. Okay, I mean, the simplest and most healing thing people can do is get outside and be on the ground. If you have any opportunity to just sit in the dirt, stand in the dirt, walk among trees, I mean, this will help. I mean, I have a friend who had a dream of a healing center, and the most important thing was having people in nature. That makes such a difference. Be by the ocean, be by a stream, just be by a tree. Okay, spiritual counselors and therapists, I mean, they can help. You just have to find the one that speaks to your soul and your being. Okay, because there are many, many ways to process and release emotion. So start with what feels right to you. And one thing I just want to emphasize is that just because the person next to you seems to not be upset or emotional with the same things that upset you, doesn't make you weak or wrong. We're just built differently, okay? And when you're sensitive, you're just more aware of the wonders of this planet and being alive. But in a difficult times, it can be harder for you. But you are strong, and just find that strength within you, and you will have a great source of healing.
And we work with you on this, absolutely, because we do know that you're very sensitive. If you suffer from the illnesses that we treat, we know you're a sensitive being, and we know that's your superpower as well. So we're here for you. Now, on advanced testing, the most effective way to fast track your detox journey is help from a trusted, experienced physician. There's a lot you can do on your own, but some people require advanced testing. In fact, most of our patients do, to figure out the root cause of detox dysfunction. For instance, some people need to start with a gut healing protocol, while others must address genetic mutations or hypothalamic pituitary adrenal dysfunction. An experienced functional medicine practitioner or a naturopathic doctor can help you by testing.
Yeah, and there's lots to look at. There's the genes of detoxification, but probably also very, very important are just some of the detoxification pathways themselves to be looked at directly, and evaluating the toxin loads. But it's really important to make sure that you look at your body's ability to handle a load on your glutathione and methylation system before you try to chelate or do something like that. Checking oxidative stress levels, looking at the inflammatory cytokines, and making sure your hormones are adequate, evaluation of your microbiome. Now, a lot of this can be done from history to decide whether you really need that, but if you do, doing the testing is your best way. And also tests that look at micronutrient status and whether there are chronic infections just getting in your way. So a snapshot of your biochemistry can save you time and probably thousands of dollars in supplements, and do it yourself experimental diets. There are testing that can help guide you especially when you're not sure which foods that maybe you need to avoid, because sometimes you seem to react to everything. So you really have to have some help there. And also sometimes there might be specific nutrients that your body needs in order to metabolize appropriately and to let you help your system detox.
Thank you so much for being here. So we covered a lot today in Pre-Tox, and it's highly personalized. Now you know, maybe you already knew, but I hope this was really informative for you. And you might be asking, well, what about detox? Is that highly personalized as well? For our patients, yes, it is. And we can also do a webinar on that. Let us know if you're interested. Just thank you so much for being here with us today.
Yeah. Thank you all. And again, as Dr. Parpia says, when we say personalized, when people are healthy, the order in which we do things doesn't often matter. But when you begin to develop chronic inflammation, then it is more like a game of pickup sticks. And we have to figure out in your body what can be moved first. If we move the wrong, it might be you might need it all moved out of you. But if we move the wrong toxin or the wrong infection too early, we might flare you.
So timing is critical. It can be the right medication or the right herb, but at the wrong time.
No.
So that's why it's personalized.
So thank you all, and looking forward. Hopefully we can help a little more with answering some of the questions that are coming in.
Yeah. Thank you, guys. All right, we have lots of questions. I'm going to scroll back up here to the top. Okay, so Ruth is asking, do these recommendations apply for children also, and children entering puberty?
So the standard ones, absolutely. The structured water, the salt, the hydration, the filtered water, yes.
Diet, yeah. I mean, I can't think of anything that we've talked about today that would be different.
Yeah, I really can't. Absolutely. Now, the peptides, lower dosages, or maybe not at all, depending on their age. You want to consult with a holistic doctor on that. Mm-hmm. Everything else, yes.
Great. If a patient smoked intermittently for 30 years and recently stopped, I am assuming they are not ready to detox without pre-tox.
Well, that's an interesting question. And again, this goes back to the personalized issue, is that the chemicals that we get from cigarette smoke, some people get rid of very easily and some people don't. So
but there's cadmium in it, and that does stick around, the cadmium.
Yeah. So but again, I don't think cigarette smoking would preclude someone, if they otherwise feel well from going on to detox. I don't want to slow people down. The trick is that if you're healthy and vigorous, you can try a detox protocol. I think you'll do fine. If you do it and you notice you get more than a transient headache or more than a transient body ache. What I mean, if you feel lousy for a few hours or a day, oh, that's fine. But if your symptoms flare, then you need pre-tox. And I guess I would say, even for healthy people, if you're constipated, you better work on that before you start trying to detox. Otherwise, you're setting yourself up to probably feel worse. But I don't think the smoking itself, especially if you stopped it, is necessarily a reason to avoid detox.
We have to check you out thoroughly, though, to see if you're ready. It's not just the smoking itself, but what other layers in your system might need you to wait. Or
the habits. I just want to add one other aspect, is that usually most people who are smoking are self-medicating for a bit of anxiety or depression. I mean, both, because nicotine is a very interesting medication, and so there can be other issues that are floating around. And again, often cigarette smoking is associated with less than optimal diets. So I would just urge people to be careful. But I would urge them to don't stop the detox if you're otherwise well.
Great. There's a lot of questions about which structured water device that you suggest, and it is the Aqua Energizer. Do you want to share any? It is in the chat, but do you all want to talk for a moment about why you like this device?
Yeah, I use it every day, actually. I won't drink my water without it anymore because I notice the difference. It's beautiful, actually, and it's a funnel, and it's got some crystals in it. And so the water, Patrick Durkin is the creator of it, and he's done a lot of research on it. But the water is spun and then brought through the crystals, and it structurizes it. And he's done the research to show that it works. But the water has this gel-like substance. It's not like Jello. It's very subtle, but I notice it, and I notice that I actually have to drink less water throughout the day. I feel a lot more hydrated. My skin feels more hydrated as well. So it makes a difference to me for sure.
Yeah, and it is one of the easier and I think more and reasonably priced devices for structured water. And I said, I think what I've been impressed with is the research behind it, that it really is producing a water with a little more with more energy in it.
Not just a little, but like literally, it's producing structured water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another question, I'm assuming adding electrolytes to water adds the structure that you speak of.
Okay, so there's
explain.
Okay, so there's electrolytes which you can get from the grocery store, and then there's electrolytes in the Colima salt, which I think is really important because it's got mineralized. It's a natural process. There's no chemicals in there. It's super pure. There's no plastics. So that's the salt that I would use. You can get electrolytes like the Endure electrolytes. I like them. They're liquid. They're in a plastic bottle. I'm not so sure about plastics these days in liquids. So I'm tending more towards the Colima salt. If you asked me a year ago, I would have said liquid electrolytes, but they've been sitting in plastic. I don't know how long that plastic has been exposed to sun and or heat, leaching out into the liquids. I'm not sure.
Yeah, and I would just say is that there's two issues. The forming the structured water, flow really seems to be important, or exposure to light. Because you have to increase the energy. Having the electrolytes will increase the tendency for it to hold on to the energy, but it really needs either light or flow, and flow is probably is the way that most of it happens. So I would I think adding the electrolytes are just important because our body needs them so badly.
It's going to help you be less dehydrated,
yeah.
Especially if you're like our patients, or maybe you are a patient of ours. Most of you are dehydrated, our patients, and so that the electrolytes help with that.
Christopher's asking, I hear about drinking celery juice to support detox and to combat Epstein-Barr. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, I'm not sure about combating Epstein-Barr. I mean, that's something I've been reading about for years. But I definitely see that it is people have had very, very, very good responses to it. So I think it's an excellent thing to do. And celery juice is that kind of it's well mineralized and alive. And I said it's vegetable juices, I think are I'm fully in favor of, and the celery juice really seems to be helping people.
Yeah, it's not going to kill off Epstein-Barr, but it could be very good supportive medicine in that way, though. So when your doctor comes in to kill off the virus, you've got some nice support with hydration from the celery juice.
That's great. Mohammed is asking, what kinds of binders can safely address and eliminate the forever chemicals?
I don't know.
We don't know yet, but I do believe that the Pectosol can, and we're going to talk to Dr. Isaac Elias on this. So we do think that can do it,
Yeah.
Pectosol.
Perhaps
But we'll find out.
We'll come back on that.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, no, because that is a big issue.
Yeah, it's a bigger issue now than we knew. I mean, we always knew it was something, but 2 days ago, it was a little stunning. Yeah.
All right. So how much BPC and TB4 frag should a person take daily?
Okay.
That-
So depending on the patient. Now, if my patient is highly inflamed, I'm going to give them a high loading dose, 3 caps twice a day for about 3 weeks. Then I'm going to take them down to a maintenance dosage of 2 caps twice a day. Now, some of our patients have severe mast cell activation syndrome, and even something as benign as these peptides, they're going to react to. If you're a patient like this, then literally I have them dip a toothpick into a capsule, not just of the peptides, but of anything. Okay, anything these patients are going to be reacting to, and just try toothpick amounts. But for most of our patients, they can start with 3 caps twice a day for 3 weeks, and then go down to 2 caps twice a day.
Yeah, but for maintenance and for healthy people, you can do 1 capsule twice a day, even 1 cap a day, if you're really healthy and you just want to really be good to your GI tract, would be very helpful. So again,
that's after you've been through treatment.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think but for if you're going through detox and you want to support healing in your gut, then using the higher dose for a short period of time is really helpful.
Yeah.
We had another woman, Carol, just share. You mentioned peptides. This kind of goes along with what you were just saying. If taking just 1/8 of a cap of oral BPC causes someone to feel whole body jittery and brain crashed, what might you think about related to pre-tox and detox?
All right. I'm thinking this person has mast cell activation syndrome, and I'm going to want to treat that first. Okay. And if the person is jittery from a little bit of BPC 157, it's very likely that many other things do that. So that's when we stop. We do nervous system treatments. It could be body work, different methods to help retrain the vagus nerve, the anti-hoppers, DNRS. So nervous system regulation treatments and mast cell activation syndrome. Sometimes these patients aren't even ready for mast cell activation treatment.
Yeah.
Which includes different herbs and medications. They need just the body work,
Yeah.
just the grounding.
Yeah, because if you're going to react to especially BPC 157, which is very benign compared to most of to most supplements, even because it's something your body makes, and it was first found in the stomach. And that's why, and it tends to help tissues heal. But anything that helps heal also will help detox. And so with a dramatic nervous system response like that, we really have to figure out what has the system so upregulated. Because that's not a toxic reaction, that's an upregulation. That's something where the body is just overreacting, and we just have to see where in the pathways, which one is the problem.
And sometimes we can't know that because it's been a lifetime of nervous system activation, overactivation, layers upon layers, years upon years. And it's the culmination of all of these things that's got your nervous system on edge. Sometimes it is that thing we can find out, but sometimes it's not. And if it's not, it's okay. We don't always need to figure out the why when it comes to that, because we have methods to calm down the nervous system.
Yeah. just a brief aside there, that's a very, very important point for people to remember, is that in medicine in general, we like to figure out why somebody has a disease, what the cause is. But in chronic illness, sometimes or many times, the cause, such as the bug, is gone, or even and that really what we have to deal with is just help the body get it. The body is stuck in reaction in that old habit pattern, okay, of inflammation. And now we have to just let the body know that it's safe to come back out and begin to react normally. And that's why I think I emphasized, when I was speaking, that being in nature gives that signal of safety. Anything that gives the body a signal of safety can help us begin to heal. So when you react to almost everything, you just try to get as much exposure to things that allow you to feel safe, even if it's so small as looking at if you can't even go outside, just looking at nature and letting your eyes open up wide to the horizon instead of just looking at your phone or your computer. Okay, so that's really important.
That's great. Lori's asking, what are the top 3 toxins to tell patients to try to avoid in their topical products? The list can be overwhelming. So yeah, what do you suggest?
Parabens, sodium lauryl and laureth sulfates, and any sulfates.
Yeah.
Now lead can even be in red lipstick, but it's not listed.
So I think
even the organic ones.
Yeah, so I think that's why it's important to use the environmental working group lists, because they've really looked at these things. Because you're right, it is overwhelming. I mean, you look at the list, and some chemicals that have long names turn out to be actually benign, and other very simple sounding ones turn out to be fairly toxic. And for those of us who are not an expert in every little toxic chemical, use the list. It will help you. I mean, that's your best bet.
Great. Another question here. Do you have a preferred method to objectively test for sympathetic dissonance?
Not sure what by sympathetic dissonance. Are they referring? It'd be nice if referring to sympathetic nervous system issues, or yeah, I'm not sure exactly how to answer that because I don't know what it means.
We'll see if they come back with something with a little more detail.
Yeah.
A lot of questions on structured water. I will put the link in again for the specific Aqua Energizer structured water device, as well as the peptides. Molly's asking, do you work with pandas?
Yes, we do. Yes. It's very similar to treatment for tick-borne disease, actually. And so when children have pandas, it's not only strep, but it can be a multitude of other infections. We test for those. It can be environmental toxins. We test for those. Issues in the gut. Bartonella can be a big one as well. So we absolutely treat kids with pandas.
Yeah, like many illnesses, when they're first diagnosed, we tend to associate them with one infection, but then we find out that really it's a generalized response of the body. And that's what pandas is that when you get inflammation at the right age, this is how the nervous system responds. And we see it in adults too, but it's still a little different flavor. In kids, it's much more dramatic.
Yeah.
We have a little bit of time here for a few more questions. I want to address a question about reasonably priced peptides. Why are peptides a little more expensive than other supplements? Could you share a little bit about that?
Well, the machinery to make them is expensive, number one, and number two, unfortunately, when they're made peptide by amino acid by amino acid, and they're strung together, and then I forget the exact chemical, but there's a solvent in there that has to be removed, and getting that out completely is very expensive. And then on top of that, what's really increased the price of them in the last 10 years has been the FDA, which has made the requirements the requirements from the manufacturers very difficult, very difficult. So it's been a combination of things, but no, I do agree that it's frustrating because we have found the peptides to be, just really probably one of the more amazing across the board supplements that we use. In fact, I didn't used to consider them a supplement because initially when we were using them, were mostly injectable, and we were impressed with them then. But when we were able to find the oral ones where it's much easier for people to take daily, we've been really impressed. So yeah, I just wish the price was cheaper.
But the amazing thing is somebody who it took us, say, 4 years to treat, using peptides now, it's 1 year or 2 years. So we can turn our patients around quicker because they're messenger chemicals. They speak to the tissues in ways that nothing else does. And so it can speak to the immune system, it speak to inflammation in your body like nothing else can. And so it gets that message in really, really quickly. So at the end of the day, you're treating for shorter. I definitely noticed that.
Yeah, I think one thing to emphasize is that, when you treat people with, antibiotics or herbs to kill things, and that's your main approach, and to be honest, that was mine for many years, you get people who get better fast, and then you get a lot of people, unfortunately, more and more and more in the last 20 years, who get sicker and sicker with that approach. And when you deal with, pre-tox, detox approach that can take a year, 2, 3 years, but will actually get people back to health a lot more, with a lot better chances
They're
of
back
getting
to their normal. They don't crash and keep coming back,
right,
and becoming return patients.
And for that, the peptides have definitely made the time quicker. And so they're expensive, but they seem to be worth it in the long run.
That's great. What is your method of preference for heavy metal detoxification?
Depending on the patient. Okay. Some patients are ready for chelation therapy. Some patients need it. The patients who need it, typically their unprovoked levels of metals are in the 75th to 90th and above level, higher than the NHANES data. That's the data from the CDC. That's when it becomes appropriate to chelate based on the numbers. Based on the patient, though, we need to know if they're ready for that. That requires the assessment of everything we just spoke about in pre-tox. Now, some people are not ready for that. Some people don't need that. If your levels are not at 75th to 90th percentile, then we work on the emunctories, okay? The organs of elimination, we work on binders. So depending on the patient.
But yeah, just to emphasize is that the NHANES data is data that the government has been collecting for, I think, 25 years now or something, looking at thousands of people. And what Dr. Parpia was saying is that if you're above the 75th percentile, you have far too much of these heavy metals or other toxins, and you probably have an issue. If you're above the 95th, then you definitely have an issue. So that's, so that is a real indication that it's time to take a look and detox. Now, then we have to look whether you're ready, biochemically. And that's why I said looking at glutathione levels, oxidized and reduced levels of glutathione, not just total glutathione.
Looking at your gut.
Yeah,
all of that.
We have to make sure that you're ready because, again, people get sicker if we try to push it. If we move metals before your body can get rid of them, they can recirculate and wind up in places we don't want them to go. such
Mhm.
as the central nervous system. So we really work hard to make sure that they're gonna go out of the body, not just get moved around.
Right. So the question was, what's your preferred method? There's no preferred method. It
Well,
all depends on the patient.
But
Yeah.
I guess, but I was saying is that it's often it's nicest and gentlest to use oral methods. But even for the oral methods, as Dr. Parpia was saying, you have to have the organs of elimination working, and so you need your gut, your liver, and kidney doing a good job
And supported the whole time.
and supported the whole time. And of course, the skin, because sauna, heat, as people say, a hot box. I mean, there's nothing like sweating for detox. Okay, I think if you go down that's still probably the top thing. I would say sweat, bind in your gut, and if people are strong enough, and if they have enough heavy metals, we do intravenous chelation does work, but you got to use it at the right time in the right patient. I don't think you start with everybody. Many people don't need it. And, and supporting the detox, if the toxins are mycotoxins, that's where using a lot of, phosphatidylcholine and things of that sort can be helpful. So,
But that's about detox.
That's about detox. Yes.
Yeah.
This is a long discussion. Sorry, I kind of went round and round there.
Wow. Okay. So
we're gonna do a detox seminar.
yes, and there are
Yeah.
so many great questions. So, but we do have to wrap this up. So, I will send all the questions to the doctors, and we'll see if we can either set up another webinar, as you said, or answer them directly. So,
Yes.
thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all. It's a pleasure. And I hope we've helped a bit in making yourself and helping you on your healing journeys, because, this is a toxic world, but people are very resilient, and we're looking forward to real health
We're
for
here to
all
help
of you.
you. Yep. We're here to help you. So thank you for being here.
Take good care.
Yes. Bye.